Hi, Todd and Kathy. This is Shane Adams. I've been listening to you guys since the very beginning, and I've learned so much from you over the years. My question for you is I know that your motto is borrowed by Dan Siegel, who's also one of my favorites, and that is the best predictor of a child's well being is a parent's self understanding. So, my question is, how have you gained a deeper self-understanding and increased your self-awareness over the years to improve your parenting? What are some of the tools that you've implemented for better self-understanding?
There we go. And that is Shane Adams, who is my sister and is also a therapist. So, sweetie, what do you think?
So her question,
Tools for self-awareness.
yeah, her question is tools, and thank you, Shane, for using the speak pipe thing. We appreciate it. Tools for self-awareness. Well, I mean, I kind of feel like we get, as parents, especially when we're starting out, we get pushed into becoming more self-aware, as I've written about a lot, and as a lot of people have said, parenting becomes a mirror for you. So you get kind of forced to look at your patterns, and you get forced to recognize what your triggers are and what bothers you. And like one thing that I realized was very early on is how much I needed and appreciated freedom. And I didn't take into account what having a baby would do to my feelings of freedom. And I'm not talking the patriotic freedom. I'm talking about like ability to make choices and do what I wanted to do. So what I had to do really early on was to find ways to recognize what meant most to me and what I needed to feel connected to myself and to feel like I had something to offer. It's a very like, fill your cup kind of thing. But I realized I needed to be alone. I didn't realize I was an introvert until I became a parent. I think that what I'm getting to is that instead of pushing against the things that our kids pull up, bring up in us, like instead of being like, no, I shouldn't want to be free. I should just want to be with my baby all the time, or this is wrong, or I should, be a better mom in this way. Instead of pushing against what I was feeling, I kind of went into what I'm feeling. Like, why is this? What does this represent? And so everything is in my parenting journey has been, okay, this scares me a lot. Why? Is it about my history? Is it about a fear I have for or with my kid? Is it a misplaced need for them to fulfill one of my dreams? Is it me thinking that if they don't do this, then they won't be quote unquote successful? I've had to redefine success. I've had to redefine every emotion and how I experience it. I've had to learn how to process emotions differently. I've had to learn to ask for help. I've had to learn to do really uncomfortable conflict conversations. I don't think there's anything about me except, my essence, who I came to here to be, that is the same than when JC was born, meaning I've changed so dramatically, maybe not externally, but internally, my insides have been dramatically changed.
Yeah. And I guess the way I interpret the question is like, what do I wish I would have done more of when I was a younger parent? And this, I'm piggybacking on everything you just said, sweetie, but really cultivate the idea of getting curious about everything, not curiosity about the outer world, but more getting curious about our inner worlds and how we get triggered and how we react. And, be willing to investigate everything. Like, oh, wow, this really bothers me. Or, oh, wow, I'm scared to have this conversation with this person. Oh, I'm really scared to disappoint my kid. I wonder what's underneath that. Is this love conditional, or am I just pretending that it's unconditional, but actually I do need something more? So that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah. And just really practice listening a lot. I think that the ability to not think everything is really important. I think that the ability to, it's like it's both sides of the coin. I have had to learn to speak up about what I need and say, I know I need this. And I've also had to learn how to listen to what others need and not believe that I have all the answers for them. So it's like I have had to learn to be more confident. And I've also had to learn to be, it's not about being less confident, about being more of an empty cup.
Yeah.
Like that I don't know everything.
Well, and the only other thing that I think of that I think we say more now than we did in the first, whatever, 10 years of this podcast is we don't, when people write in or call in or talk to us at a presentation, and maybe you've been saying this forever, but like, we don't know your kid.
Mm-mm.
Like only you know your kid.
Mm-hmm.
So for anybody to take advice from us or anybody else, go ahead and solicit information to equip yourself. I'm sure that's probably why you're listening to this podcast. But at the end of the day, just tune into oneself and do it, even if it's against what Todd or Cathy would say, or what your own mom and dad would say, or what this parenting book says. And, you're going to screw up. That's what parenting is.
So I think what all these podcasts and books are good for, because any kind of methodology or advice that's like, do A, do B, do C, and then move to the next stage. It's ridiculous. Like, I feel like we figured that out really early on with things like sleep training, or things like your kids should be eating this or doing this at this time. And no book can tell you when that child is going to do that. Like, it's nice to have milestones or have an idea, it's like what to expect when you're pregnant. It's nice to have that book, because you're like, okay, I can kind of depend on this maybe happening, but nothing is cut and dry. It's like, it's not set in stone. And just having that awareness of that, you are going along for the ride.
Yeah.
Like you have
Buckle up.
You have to be, there was like another thing I was going to say about it, and I forgot, because I got lost on the track of the books, because I think about the books and I think about how mad they would make me, and it takes me down a totally another path.
Right.
Like I do, I know what you were saying, Toddy. You were saying that we don't know about your kid. And I think what podcasts and books can do is it allows us to process and think through our own belief systems. I think if you're listening to something like, there's a few podcasts I listen to that, nothing extreme, but that I don't necessarily agree with everything they're saying. It's not that I'm listening to them to like, to hate on them, but I'm like, I don't necessarily agree with it, but I still listen because it helps me process some of the things that I think, or why do I think that, or wait a second, could they be right? Or should I reconsider that? And I think that's important. So podcasts and books are not about, they're going to give me the answer. It's more about, how do I process, how do I get into the discussion in my own mind or with other people about these challenges I'm facing as a parent?